It was Audre Lorde who said, "It is not our difference that divide us, it is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences." Hello boys and girls, my name is Miss Aaliyah Brewster and welcome to another edition of Grade 4 Social Studies. It's my pleasure to guide you through today's lesson. Today we'll be learning African culture. Before we begin, let's do a brief recap on who we are as a people. Every family has something in common. They are all a part of the human race. The human race is divided into 6 main ethnic groups. All these groups can be found in Guyana, namely the Amerindians, the Europeans, the Africans, the Portuguese, the East Indians, and the Chinese. There is also the mixed race, which describes persons that have a combination of 2 or more main race in their genetics. But how did the Africans came to live in Guyana? Afro-Guyanese, which is the name given to persons of African descent that resides in Guyana, are generally descendants from the enslaved people that were brought to Guyana from the coast of West Africa to work on the sugar plantation during the era of the Atlantic slave trade. They were the 3rd group to come to work in Guyana. The process that was responsible for transporting Africans to Guyana is the triangular trade. The triangular trade existed between Europe, Africa, and the Americas. The triangular trade was given its name due to the shape that the voyage created between Europe, Africa, and the Americas. The triangular trade consisted of 3 stages. Stage 1 was a voyage from Europe to Africa. Manufactured goods such as clothing, alcohol, beads, metal, and guns were taken from Europe to Africa and exchanged for captured Africans. Stage 2 is the voyage from Africa to the Americas and the West Indies. This stage was also known as the Middle Passage. Captured Africans were transported on board of a slave ship from Africa to the Americans and the West Indies. They were also sold as slaves. The final stage, which is stage 3, is the voyage from the Americas and the West Indies to Europe. Here, raw materials such as cotton, sugar, tobacco, molasses, and rum, which were all products of slave labor on the plantation, were sold to Europe. The trade ship took 5 to 12 weeks to complete this trip. You may have heard me mention the word slavery more than once in starting this lesson, but what exactly is slavery? Slavery is the practice of one group of people owning another. The group that is owned are known as the enslaved. Enslaved people have to work for the owners, doing whatever the owners ask them to do. In the past, many societies had slavery. However, almost all societies now consider slavery to be wrong. They consider personal freedom to be a basic human right. The industry of slavery started after the unsuccessful experiments with growing tobacco. The English colonists tried growing sugarcane in the Caribbean. This was not a local plant, but it grew well after its introduction. Sugarcane could be used to make various products. There was sugar, of course, which went well with tea, coffee, and chocolate. It could also be used to make rum, a strong alcoholic drink. A lot of people in Europe wanted these products, and as a result, those who grew it, known as the planters, became very wealthy. This also made the Caribbean colonies valuable as well as vulnerable. For enslaved Africans on the plantation, the work was always hard. They were punished with beatings and other forms of torture for many different reasons. They did not have enough to eat, decent places to live, or good clothes to wear. They were not allowed to learn to read nor write. They could also be sold at any time and separated from their family. Some tried to rebel against their owners, but they would be punished or killed for doing so. On the topic of rebellion, There were many slaves who were seeking their freedom and a way to escape the harsh and brutal treatment. Some enslaved people rose up against the planters. For example, let's look at Coffee. Coffee is a slave rebellion leader. Like most enslaved, he was captured from West Africa and stolen to work on the sugar plantation, specifically the Dutch colony of Berbice. He became famous because in 1763, he led a revolt of more than 2,500 slaves against the colony. Today, he is a national hero in Guyana. His efforts were materialized in a monument known as the 1763 Monument, which can be found in Guyana on Durban Street. After many attempts at freedom, in the year 1834, slavery ended. However, most Caribbean territories celebrate the end of slavery on August the 1st. This day is known as Emancipation Day. Now let's move on to discuss the Africans' contribution to our diverse culture. To begin, we're going to look at the various dishes that were contributed. First, we're going to talk about cook-up rice. Cook-up rice is a traditional Guyanese recipe that is very versatile. It is a one-pot dish that can be made with any type of peas, such as pigeon peas, chickpeas, and even black-eyed peas. It also contains meat. Another meal that was contributed by the Africans is metemgee. Metemgee is a Guyanese Creole stew of mixed meat, saltfish, and dumplings with coconut milk, cassava, yam, plantains, okra, onions, thyme, and hot pepper sauce. Yum, delicious. They also contributed fufu. The term fufu refers to any ground provision or a combination of ground provisions that have been boiled, pounded, or mashed, then formed into balls. The Africans also contributed konki. Konki is a sweet dish made from cornmeal, pumpkin, coconut, sugar, and warm spices steamed in a banana leaf. Now we're going to move on to discuss the various clothing that were contributed by the Africans. And as you can see from my attire, I'm well affiliated. But there are various types of clothing that were contributed besides the one that I have on. They are the dashikis, head ties, wraps, and the jalaba. The Africans also contributed fine jewelry. African jewelries are known for their quality and beauty all over the world. There are many types of African jewelry, such as pendants, bracelets, earrings, and necklaces. Some materials that are used to make African jewelry are amber, carved stone, glass, wood, paper, ivory, animal hair, eggshell, bone, seashell, and even cloth. The Africans also contributed musical instruments. Musical instruments in Africa are not only used for making music, they are also used to communicate to both man and spirit, translating and emanating daily experiences and events. These instruments include drums, shakers or shak-shak, and the marimba, which is like a xylophone. Using photographs, we're now going to examine the various crafts that were contributed by the Africans. These crafts include pottery, ceramics, beadwork, basketry, dolls, metalware. Now let's move on to discuss the rituals and beliefs that are observed in Guyana today as a contribution from the Africans. First, we're going to look at the death rituals. When someone from a traditional Afro-Guyanese home passes away, there are several ways in which the passing is observed. But the main characteristic is the beating of drums until midnight, sometimes later, and singing or chanting of death hymns. While drummers play the evocative melodies all night, African singers would chant songs that would lead them off into the humming of other spiritual songs which most do not understand. This ritual is usually observed in the yard or bottom house of the deceased. Some of the songs include Congo Creole, One by One, Awia Gowe, Bimbo Bimbo Solomon, and Do Like a Me, You're Gonna Live Solomon. The songs are believed to give the spirit of the deceased a smooth passage to the other side. Another belief that was contributed by the Africans is Comfort. Comfort focuses on the Water Mama, which is the goddess of the water. The ceremony takes place during a full moon in black waters. It is also marked by elements of ecstatic trance-like dancing and spirit possession, which is induced by drumming. It is practiced in Guyana mainly by the descendants of the enslaved Africans. According to social linguist Guy Gibbons, the foremost expert on Guyanese comfort, the religion is currently practiced by about 10% of the country's African Guyanese population. Cultural historian Brian Moore also indicated that in the post-colonial Guyana, the religious practices designated by the term comfort were also referred to as Water Mama in honor of the river gods. Another element that was contributed from the Africans is a cleansing ceremony. Most cleansing ceremonies by Afro-Guyanese are conducted at the seawalls early in the morning. Two women, either clothed in white, African dresses, or African prints, would bathe the person who is said to be either possessed or touched by an evil eye. In some cases, the person is scrubbed from head to toe with special brews made by a witch doctor or a Obia man or woman. In some African homes, preventing an evil force from entering and interfering with a newly married couple can be done through various traditional methods. One involves an egg, which is washed, placed in a clean glass, filled with water, which is then placed over the front door of the home. One of the most popular religious beliefs of the Africans is Obia. It is considered to be the spiritual magic of the first human societies on the African continent and is practiced in Guyana in its raw and pure form. The mysteries of Obia have been studied carefully by scientists alike, but none have completely unraveled its mysteries. Yet, many locals have given testimony to its power. The persons performing the spiritual magic is called a witch doctor or a Obia man. Obia can be used to mend broken hearts. It provides spells for love, money, spiritual protection, and just about anything at all. They are known to be successful once it is the will of good and the evil spirits. However, the rituals and practices in this field still remains a closely guarded secret. Folklore is another major contribution from the Africans. Folklore is a collection of fictional stories about animals and people. They can come in the form of myths, jokes, songs, tales, and even quotes. It is the description of culture which has been passed down verbally from one generation to another. However, many folklores are now in written form. Folklore is also known as folk literature or oral traditions. The people from Africa included unique characteristics to their folklore, showing their way of life and the animals and the plants that surrounded them. African stories sometimes include trickster animals and spirits. Before we go, I would like to read a folklore story for you. The name of this story is The Lightning and the Thunder. In the olden days, the thunder and lightning lived on earth amongst all other people. But the king made them live at the far end of town, as far away as possible from other people's houses. The thunder was an old mother sheep, and the lightning was her son, a ram. Whenever the ram got angry, he used to go out, burn people's houses, knock down trees. He even did damage to farms and sometimes killed people. Whenever the lightning did these things, his mother used to call out to him in a very loud voice to stop and do not do any more damage. But the lightning did not care in the least for what his mother said. And when he was in a bad temper, he would do the very same amount of damage as he did before. At last, The people could not stand it any longer and complained to the king. So the king made a special order that the sheep, Thunder, and her son, Lightning, should leave the town and live in the far end of the bush. This did not do much good, as when the ram got angry, he still burnt the forest, and the flames sometimes would spread to farms and consume them. So the people complained again, and the king banished both the lightning and the thunder from the earth and made them live in the sky, where they could not cause so much destruction. Ever since when the lightning is angry, he would still commit the same amount of damage as before, but you can hear his mother Thunder rebuking him and telling him to stop. Sometimes, however, when the mother has gone away some distance from her naughty son, you could still hear the sounds he makes when he's angry and the damage that he's done. But his mother's voice can never be heard. Okay, boys and girls, that has brought us to the end of the folklore story, and it's time for us to close our lesson. But just before we go, remember the words of Audre Lorde. It is not our difference that divides us. It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. Thank you once again for tuning in, boys and girls, and goodbye.